Breaking news on NFL Live. This will definitely be Aaron Rodgers' final season in the NFL at year 22, his second with the Steelers. Here's what he said today.
Yeah, I love Mike T. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in last year and love my experience with him. And, you know, I thought when he said he was stepping away, that was an emotional moment just because we all love him so much and care about him. And, you know, I thought that that was probably it for me in Pittsburgh. But when the decision was made to hire Mike, I started opening my mind back up to coming back.
Two more. Aaron, do you believe this could be your last year, or do you even think of that right now?
Yes. This is it, yeah.
Right, so kudos to the reporter who slipped that question in at the end, and our reporter, Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor. What more can you tell us about the news of the day? Not only Rodgers obviously decided to come back and play under Mike McCarthy, but the decision finally to make this his last season.
Yeah, Hannah, I think a big part of Rodgers coming back is that Mike McCarthy factor. And Mike McCarthy would not be in Pittsburgh maybe if it weren't for Aaron Rodgers, because Rodgers said today that he actually suggested to Omar Khan early in the offseason, hey, maybe you guys should interview Mike McCarthy to get an outside perspective going into this head coaching search, because it felt like, you know, guys that were in the Sean McVay tree, the Kyle Shanahan tree, those were the guys getting a look. And he said, what if we revisited one of my old friends, one of my old head coaches in Mike McCarthy? And Rodgers said today that it has felt surreal. There have been a lot of pinch me moments being back here in the building with Mike McCarthy. For him, it was that 8 a.m. meeting Monday morning. He said he felt like he was the 22-year-old back in 2006 in Mike McCarthy's first meeting. And McCarthy said the special moment for him was walking out on the practice field with Rodgers for the first time on Monday. And this is just the start of a lot of pinch me moments. And what Rodgers said was a full circle moment to be here playing with Mike McCarthy again.
It is crazy. It's absolutely something that neither of them could ever have imagined. But here we have it. They are together for his last season. It will happen as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Brooke, thank you so much. And as we take a look at the farewell tour, if you will, we see some of those games highlighted. Week 7 in Paris. That feels very Rodgers-esque, that kind of trip. Looks like a lot of fun. They'll play the Broncos on Black Friday. We have Monday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers. And then, interestingly, the season ends at their arch rival, the Ravens. Booger, what do you make of Rodgers not only reuniting with McCarthy, but what this last dance is going to look like?
Well, I think you're going to get the best of Aaron Rodgers, whatever he has left. I think I've been on record saying that I thought Aaron should have retired after last season. But the fact that Mike McCarthy comes in and you're going to reunite this pair, the synergy that's there from their time in Green Bay, they probably can finish each other's sentences. They know each other's tendencies, what each other wants, all those different things. You throw in some of the weapons that he has, because you got DK Metcalf, you got Roman Wilson, you got Michael Pittman Jr., Jeremy Bernard. There are some weapons there in Pittsburgh for this offense to exploit. And so I think you're going to get whatever Aaron Rodgers has left, Mike McCarthy is going to get it out of him. And if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, let's hope it's good enough to get them in the postseason and see if they can make another run.
Yeah, this will be interesting, because I think, quite honestly, if I'm Mike McCarthy right now, I'm thinking, you know what, I don't want to put too much on Aaron Rodgers. I really want to kind of lean into how this team's really been constructed, which to me looks like it's going to have a big, strong, physical offensive line that should be able to really capture the line of scrimmage and run the football. And look, and I really do think now, with some of the additions that they've added to that offensive line this year, when you look there on your screen, look, Max Ahana and Jennings Dunker, those are two really good young players to go along with a returning group that, when healthy, is pretty darn good. And when you think about the running back combination of Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle, the size at wide receiver and tight end, when you think of Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth, DK, Michael Pittman, who you talked about, these are big physical dudes. This should be a big physical, cold weather, old school Pittsburgh Steelers type of team that should take some of the pressure off of Aaron, quite honestly, and maybe have it be one of those where he doesn't have to carry it.
I forgot to introduce you guys before I talk to you. So obviously this is Louis Riddick and Booger McFarland, who is sporting his Wingfoot golf shirt. So I know he considers this a really big day. Guys, Rodgers, by the way, would be eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2032. All right, this is new on NFL Live. Joe Burrow speaking today about the additions the Bengals made this offseason and his expectations for 2026.
I just think we know where we needed to be better, and we went out and aggressively made it happen. We filled some holes that we had from years past, got better at a lot of positions, signed the best free agent safety, got the best D tackle in the league in my opinion. So we have everything we need in that locker room. We just got to go and make it happen. Number one thing is you have to win, and we're going to go win a lot of games this year and play great and win a Super Bowl. And I think this is the most talented roster that we've had since I've been here.
Wow, that's, saying a lot. Went to the Super Bowl in 2021. Their offense certainly was better than their defense last year, but the offense definitely took a dip from the year before. They ranked in the bottom half of the league in offensive efficiency after they were 6th in the NFL 2 seasons ago. Obviously, a big reason for that is Burrow played a career low 8 games last season with that turf toe. But Louis, with a healthy Burrow, he says it's the most talented team he's been a part of in Cincinnati. What's the ceiling for this team if indeed they have him for a full season?
I think, honestly, look, the playoffs are the floor. I think that's just the starting point. You have to get into the playoffs. Otherwise, I think there's going to be major changes, and it may start with Joe. It may start with Joe saying, you know what, I'm out of here. Enough of this. If we have all these people and all this talent on paper, which everyone talks about at this time of year, and we still cannot make a dent in the North and become real contenders in the North and maybe win the North, get into the playoffs, get a home playoff game, and see if we can get there to that AFC title game, then, where else do you turn? Usually at that point, it's time to blow it up. It's time to blow it up from the decision makers on down. And I think that's really what Cincinnati is facing. He's right. They did address the defensive side of the ball, the front seven in particular. They loaded up on people both in free agency and in the draft. And they invested a number 1 pick last year in Shamar Stewart. The safety that he's talking about is Brian Cook, who comes over, from the Kansas City Chiefs. There's Dexter Lawrence on your screen. They draft Cassius Howell. They signed Boye Mafe. They got Jonathan Allen. They got all kinds of dudes. Now it's up to the coaching staff to develop and utilize. That's the most important part of this whole team building process anyway. The development and utilization of the players that you acquire. If they can't get that done, I expect there to be big changes in Cincy for the 2027 season.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that one as far as the changes. Some people were surprised that Zach Taylor made it after last season, but I think if health is withstanding and Joe Burrow is standing upright, it's going to be about this Bengals defense. I think offensively with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they're going to be able to put up points on the board. Can they stop anybody on defense? Can they stop the run? I think that's why getting Dexter Lawrence was so big. You heard Joe Burrow talk about being the best defensive tackle in football. He's got to return to that, which is what he was in 2024. 2025 wasn't a good year, so can Dexter Lawrence return back? Can you get something out of Shamar Stewart, who has all the tools in the world? Boye Mafe. This defensive line has to dominate. If they can dominate and just give Joe Burrow and this offense 1 extra possession, 1.5 extra possessions a game, I think Zach Taylor, who's an offensive coach, has got to feel really good about his offense. They got to run the ball a little bit better, but make no mistake about this. If the defense is good and Burrow is healthy, playoffs is the bare minimum. They need to make a run in the playoffs for Zach Taylor to keep his job.
Yeah, and they're one of 5 AFC teams to miss the playoffs in each of the last 3 seasons. All right, we're just getting started on NFL Live with Rashee Rice, now expected to be sidelined for multiple months. We discuss the impact that his absence could have on the Chiefs. And we hear from Atlanta's new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, on their quarterback competition and what this talented team actually needs from a signal caller, whoever that is. The Chiefs 1 week before being ordered to serve 30 days in jail for a probation violation. Chiefs wideout Rashee Rice underwent a cleanup surgery on his right knee. He is now expected to be sidelined for 2 months according to Adam Schefter. Our Chiefs reporter Nate Taylor joins us now with more. Nate, obviously, first we heard of the violation involving Rice. Now the report that he's going to be sidelined. What are you hearing about how the Chiefs are handling this situation?
Yeah, Hannah, the Chiefs, as you can imagine, aren't thrilled with what's happening with Rashee Rice after we just learned that he has to serve 30 days in jail starting yesterday after he tested positive for marijuana, which is still an illegal drug in the state of Texas. Now, that's part of his 5-year probation for the 2024 multi-car accident that he caused in March of that year, which led to his 6-game suspension to start last season. As it relates to Rashee Rice in jail as of right now, it's going to be difficult for him to really get any sort of rehab or to really have his knee be strengthened over the course of these next 30 days. And from the Chiefs standpoint, they are hopeful, Hannah, that he will be available when training camp starts in late July. But this was not the plan that the Chiefs wanted. They wanted Rashee Rice to be available for the offseason program, to be a part of mandatory minicamp. Of course, we know Patrick Mahomes is doing plenty of work himself, rehabbing from his own knee injury, to be expected to participate in the OTA practices next week. So it would have been nice if the Chiefs had their top 3 receivers in Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton. Instead, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes trying to build that chemistry with Xavier Worthy, with Tyquan Thornton, and hoping that he can pick things back up with Rashee Rice, with the Chiefs hoping that this will not cause a further issue for his season, which is going to be the last of his rookie contract.
Right, exactly. So the timing of this is very inauspicious, to say the least. Nate, we appreciate you. Let's go back to Lewis and Booger here. So, Lewis, we're talking about a player who has missed 25 games over the last 2 seasons, and a guy that they really, really need on the field. From your front office experience, what kind of conversations might be happening there?
Yeah, I think these conversations, honestly, Hannah, have been taking place long even before this. I mean, this is just the kind of thing, though, that just kind of pushes you further down the road to saying, okay, look, what are our next best alternatives here? Can we really depend on this guy to be someone who, not just this year, but long term, when we're talking about a contract extension, is that something we really want to do? Is that something we're really going to want to invest in? Because it just doesn't seem like right now that it's adding up to where you can really trust and depend upon this young man, despite how good he has been when he has been on the football field. And I think, once we start looking at some of the, changes that they made offensively, both in terms of philosophical approach with bringing back Eric Bieniemy, and bringing in Kenneth Walker, drafting a running back to really, so they can have like a 1-2 type of punch in Emmett Johnson. I mean, that's the kind of thing that they're looking to maybe offset some of the things and deficiencies that they may have in that wide receiver room until it starts to come together once the season starts.
I think if you look at it on the surface and you try to take a macro view, we're 4 months from the season starting. So if he can get through this 30-day sentence, get back to the facility, start to do some rehab, and if you're a Chiefs organization and you go to game 1 and you got Tyquan Thornton, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy, you feel pretty good about what you're doing. The problem is this, is that even when those guys were healthy and those guys were ready to go, this Chiefs offense wasn't as explosive as we're used to it being in the past. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are looking at. You got a Patrick Mahomes coming off an ACL. You got an aging Travis Kelce. The offensive line should be better, especially if Simmons comes back and he can play every game. But the explosive offense, I think that we're used to seeing in Kansas City, I don't know if we're going to see. You bring in Kenneth Walker. Are they going to run the football a little bit more? I give them credit. The creativity with Eric Bieniemy should be back. But I think even when Rashee Rice gets back, if he gets back by September, I think if you're the most staunch Chief fan, you have to ask yourself, how explosive can this offense be if we're fully healthy?
Now, what's interesting about that, though, is that, me, man. Look, I always, and I didn't mean to jump you here, but
I was going to ask you about that guy on the bottom. I was going to ask you about that guy highlighted in yellow at the bottom, because I know that you know about every single player in college football, and this kid was taken out of Cincinnati, 5th round, 176. Lewis, do you see him helping the Chiefs?
Yeah, I absolutely could see a situation where Cyrus Allen really does help them, because he has got home run speed, inside, outside lane versatility. You see it here. I mean, this isn't AI. This isn't fake fake tape here. This dude can go, and he can track and catch the football. And I know people are saying, well, how much could you really count on a fifth rounder? Hey, look, once you get into the league, the round that you were drafted doesn't really matter. And between Cyrus, Xavier, and Tyquan Thornton, you've got some burners right there. And don't forget this name either. There's another guy from Cincy who they signed as an undrafted free agent named Jeff Caldwell, who's about 6'5", 214, 215 pounds, who ran like low 4.3, high 4.2, and jumps like 44 and his tape is incredible. It's incredible. The Chiefs, don't sleep on them. It may not look like they have some weapons right now, but with this renewed running game, and I'm telling you, Emmett Johnson and Kenneth Walker together, along with EB calling plays, Chiefs are going to be just fine.
Yeah,
they'll be just fine. Just give them some time.
Need a healthy Mahomes, obviously. And they open the season with 2 straight home primetime games, including Monday Night Football Week 1 against the Broncos.
Yeah.
So we'll get a good idea right away. All right, coming up, the Raiders drafted Fernando Mendoza, as you know, with the hopes of him becoming their franchise quarterback. So what is the likelihood that he actually begins the season on the bench? Louis Riddick has some thoughts. Okay, so take a look at this. Raiders quarterback and noted Star Wars fan Fernando Mendoza was gifted a jersey, the Mandalorian, written on the back. They've already been having a lot of fun with that. And by the way, gotta plug it, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu is in theaters Friday. No doubt this young man will be watching it right away. All right, new on NFL Live, Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak spoke today about how impressed he's been with The Mandalorian.
As advertised, you know, he is not disappointed. He's working his tail off. It's very important to him. Asks a lot of great questions. When he gets on the field, he's no BS. He's all ball.
All right, let's go to Raiders reporter Ryan McFadden, who joins us now. Ryan, what more can you tell us about how the Raiders are handling this quarterback room with Mendoza and Kirk Cousins?
Raiders coach Clint Kubiak didn't provide a specific timeline for when he would like to decide if Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza will be the starting quarterback. He added the answer will reveal itself during training camp. On top of that, he wants his players to ultimately decide if the team should start the 15-year-old veteran or this year's #1 overall pick. During practice, Mendoza worked with the third team, while Cousins received most of the first team reps, given his experience and familiarity with the offense. When asked, will it be a sign of progress for Mendoza, Kubiak had a very direct answer: completions, getting the ball to the team's playmakers.
Well, that sounds simple enough. So much turnover for this franchise, including interim coaches Clint Kubiak. He's the Raiders' 6th head coach in the last 6 seasons. It was a busy offseason there in Vegas. In addition to Mendoza and Cousins, they also signed center Tyler Linderbaum, and they add potential starters to the defense, including linebackers Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. Louis, so what you have analyzed Mendoza every which way. From what you've seen, how quickly do you think he could start?
I would say, Hannah, within that first quarter of the season, those first 4 to 5 games, I think you could see him in there. I think a lot of this obviously is going to depend upon his progression, which he has been really at work on that since January. I mean, he's been working on West Coast principles since the offseason began, because he kind of assumed, or really had an inkling that he was going to be the #1 overall pick with the Raiders. So he's probably way ahead of the curve already. We'll see how he looks during preseason games and in joint practices and such. But I think he's going to put the pressure on right away. The one thing I do know about him, and talking to him and talking to the coaches out there in Indiana, is look, his dedication to the process. And I know that sounds like, very typical, standard speak, but his dedication is very, very, very real. His mental horsepower is very real. His physical skill is very real. You can see they've already chronicled some of the changes that he's made as far as his mechanics, his throwing motion, how much it looks very Tom Brady-esque already. He's taking to all the inputs that he's getting, and he's applying them on the field. And I think, quite honestly, look, this is going to be one of those deals where Clint Kubiak's going to have to sit there and go, okay, look, how long do we sit and wait with this guy? Do we go ahead and throw him in there or don't we? I mean, is it just time to play him or isn't it? It's a great problem to have, but I think he's going to put the pressure on Kirk right from the get-go. He just is, because he's a unique kid. There's a reason why you go from Cal to Indiana, go 15-0, and then win the Heisman Trophy, sweep all the awards, and become the #1 pick. It isn't luck. It's because you've got it. Simple as that.
As unique as he is, Lewis, and I do agree with you, especially with how he processes information, how he understands the offense and everything he's been working on. I just remember in the back of my mind listening to Tom Brady, who's basically kind of calling the shots out there and say, hey, rookie quarterbacks should sit and learn. That's what Brady said. And the fact that Brady said that, I heard him say it with my own ears, I think he's going to sit longer than he's going to play. I think there's a reason you go out and spend the money they spend on Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk is going to start the season, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kirk Cousins plays 7, 8, 9 games. I do think Fernando Mendoza plays at some point during the season, but I think the overwhelming share of the reps and the games will be played by Kirk Cousins. Let's understand this. The biggest thing they have to do is not see whether this guy can play. I think they have an idea that he can play. Otherwise, they wouldn't have drafted him number 1 overall. What they have to do is bring him along. That way, once he does get on the field, he can show his talent. Just think about the best quarterback in our game, what they did with Patrick Mahomes. He said every game except one. He played one game, then the next season he came in and he took over. He doesn't have to play a lot, but I do think he will play this season. But Kirk Cousins is going to take the lion's share of the reps, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you look at their schedule, their first 7 games are against playoff teams, Lewis. Continue.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I know this. Down in Kansas City, they had to literally, tie their hands together and put tape on their mouth in order to not put Patrick in there that year. And the reason why was, from the very first practice that he had that offseason, he was tearing it up. And Brett Veach was like, oh, my goodness. Look at what we had. What also helped was the fact that they were winning football games and Alex Smith had the best season of his career. Right. So I think that will allow, Clint Kubiak and company to kind of keep him on the bench if Kirk is playing that way and this team is kind of ascending and kind of doing the things it needs to do. But otherwise, I agree with you, man. I agree with you in terms of Booger as far as what Tom Brady has said, and I'm not going to go against that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, one, in Kansas City, it took everything they had to keep Patrick off the field. And number 2, Fernando's the number 1 overall pick, dude. I'm putting my money on seeing him this year earlier than maybe we think.
I thought it was so interesting what we just heard in that report that Kubiak said the players are going to decide. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But Kubiak had a lot of interesting things to say. He also talked about his star tight end, Brock Bowers. Here it is.
He's kind of a football robot in a good way. He's a football robot from heaven. He's a Cadillac out there. We got to get the most out of Brock.
All right, football robot. Okay, wow, Kubiak's saying all sorts of stuff. Lewis, what do you make of this team overall?
I love everything that they've done this offseason, Hannah. I really do. I think John Spytek in his scouting department, along with the front office higher-ups like Tom and whoever else is involved in decision-making, and then Clint, and I got a chance to talk to Clint out at Indiana's Pro Day. I think they've nailed this thing. They have really tried to fortify this offensive line, Tyler Linderbaum being the centerpiece. They got a 1-2 punch at running back right now, with Ashton and then drafting Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas. That's as big and physical as anybody's in the NFL. They have a monster at tight end that is going to be a problem. Defensively, they've added a lot of firepower. I think the Raiders can surprise people this year. I really do.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Nearly a third of the league, by the way, has a new head coach after there were 10 teams that made changes in the offseason. That's tied for the most all time. That includes 3 new head coaches in the AFC North alone. Mike McCarthy with the Steelers, obviously, Todd Monken in Cleveland, and Jesse Minter taking over the Ravens. And in Baltimore, apparently Minter's made an impression in the locker room. This is Derrick Henry describing the energy from his new head coach.
The guy that's hungry, somebody that wanted this opportunity and presented himself. He took advantage of it, and excited to be here, excited to get to work, put the work in, so we get the results we want.
Hey, Booger, when you hear that from Derrick Henry, what do you think about the tone that Minter's setting?
I think it's a great tone because anytime you get new leadership in, you have to put your imprint on the team. And I think that's what you see from Jesse Minter. We all understand he's a hardball disciple being out there with Jim, but I think he's going to come at it from a defensive background. And anytime you have a team like Baltimore that was under John Harbaugh for 18, 19 years, you need a new speech at the beginning of the meeting. You need a new enthusiasm on the practice field, and you need a new demeanor. And I think Jesse Minter is going to bring that defensive mentality to the Baltimore Ravens. I think they'll be tougher. I think they'll be more physical under Jesse Minter.
Well, they definitely need to have a better pass rush. They're at the Colts in week 1, home for the Saints in week 2, Cowboys in Brazil week 3. Moving on to Miami, where new head coach Jeff Hafley steps into a very tough spot in year 1 after the decision to trade wideout Jalen Waddle back in March. And yesterday, the Finns' new quarterback, Malik Willis, was asked about it.
It was unfortunate, for sure, to say the least. That's a really good player, and I would have loved to play with him, but that's above my pay grade, brother. Out of my hands.
Man, I love his honesty there. Hearing that, how important is it going to be for these wideouts to hit early there in Miami?
It's going to be huge. They drafted 3 of them. They got 3 youngsters, and these guys are absolutely fantastic. And, when you look at there, Kevin Coleman from Missouri, who is a slot guy who can go inside and outside. Caleb Douglas on the outside, the 3rd rounder out of Texas Tech, who's got range, long and lanky. Chris Bell, the 3rd rounder out of Louisville, who is coming off of an ACL injury. We don't know when he's going to be available. I don't know if he'll be available at the beginning of the year. But those 3 guys really had to complement one another in terms of skill set. You've got big size. You got big speed when you're talking about Chris Bell, Caleb Douglas, catch radius, Kevin Coleman, lots of run after the catch. If they hit on those 3, Malik Willis has some young guys that he can really grow with.
Yeah, can't wait to see what he can potentially show. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Kevin Stefanski is back in familiar territory, managing a quarterback room, of course. Tua Tagovailoa, former Miami, now looking for another chapter in his career. Michael Penix Jr. coming off a 3rd ACL. Stefanski explains how he's planning to split those reps.
Very intentionally. I think it's our job. I think Tommy Rees does an outstanding job of making sure that we're intentional about how we want this to operate. And, one guy will be up first one period and then switch to the next period and rotate every single day and really almost every drill, because the truth is we're trying to get the best version of all of our players. So we want to mix and match guys in different spots.
I mean, Booger, let's face it, this roster is good. They have some really good skill players. So at the quarterback position, what do they need from whoever is going to be under center?
Well, I think you have to understand who you're playing for. When you look at Kevin Stefanski, they want to run the football, they want to play action pass, they want to be physical. He wants to hunt chunk yardage down the field. And so I think he's going to go with the guy, number 1, who's the healthiest, number 2, who can be the most accurate when it comes to tight windows. Because when you run the football with Bijan Robinson and you're going to make those linebackers come up, it's going to create voids between the safeties and the linebackers. And so now whoever's running this play action pass has got to be able to throw the football over the linebackers, in front of the safeties, over the corners, in front of the safeties. So I think Kevin Stefanski is going to have a dream of a season with Bijan Robinson. There's going to be so many different ways you can use him and deploy who I think is the best running back in the league. I think it's going to be dependent at the quarterback position. Can they get somebody that can just be a game manager? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Yeah. I don't need the guy with the biggest arm. I need the guy that can command the offense, be the most accurate, and throw the football where the voids are in the defense.
Yeah, I just need the guy who can stay on the field. That's all.
Yeah.
Between these 2, I just want somebody to be able to stay on the field and be able to play, 3 quarters of the season. That's all. That's it. Because after that, all this other stuff that we're talking about, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, they've got weapons. They've got size on the perimeter. They got guys who can run the football out of the backfield. Kevin Stefanski is a coach of the year guy. I know there's a lot of people who champion and really cheer for him and say this is a guy who just hasn't been able to get the right combination of people to where it could really cast that shine on his coaching ability like everyone feels like he deserves. But none of it's going to matter if Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa can't stay on the football field. Because after that, they're going to face the same problems every other team does when their quarterbacks are on the bench because they're not healthy.
May the healthiest man win this competition for a team that's missed the playoffs in 8 straight seasons, right? Second longest active drought in the NFL. And maybe don't turn the ball down series continues today as the Kansas City Chiefs running back Myles Garrett tells the story of his touchdown in Super Bowl IV and the legend of the play call, 65 toss power trap, from the legend himself, Hank Stram. The Hall of Famer was the first coach ever to be mic'd up on the sideline during the Super Bowl, and that provided this iconic moment.
My name is Myles Garrett. I play for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
It's the American League champion Kansas City Chiefs against the Minnesota Vikings of the National Football League. This is it. There is no tomorrow now, no more divisional titles, no more playoffs.
Yes, sir. Attaboy, away. That's the way to go, Brother Bean. Hell, he didn't know where the hell to go. Pump it in there, baby. Come on, let's negotiate the ball down the field, Leonard. That's right, boys.
Hank had a pretty good ego, and to be taped up for the game, we knew he was excited.
They can't cover that in a million years. What? Just keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys.
We can hear him chirping up and down the sideline because he was taped, and he didn't normally did that. But it was an exciting time. It was the Super Bowl.
3rd down and 5.
65 toss power trap. Look for 65 toss power trap. What does it look like? Hey, look for a 65 toss power trap. Let's see what it looks like.
Well, we knew the 65 toss power trap was a halfback running a trap inside. I knew that was my play, but like everybody in the huddle were saying, "Are you kidding me? We've never run this play from scrimmage the whole season. This is a play we just practiced, and you're playing against Minnesota?" I said, "Someone could get killed, and it's probably me."
Tell him 65 toss power trap. 65 toss power trap. That might pop wide open, Reds.
If I get through cleanly, I score immediately. If I don't get through, I'm smashed right at the line of scrimmage.
Running play coming to Garrett on a top.
The mentor. 65 toss power trap. Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was electric when the hole was there. I was stunned, and all I could do is I couldn't move fast enough. We scored. We scored.
Defeat his notorious Kansas City Chiefs, who did the job here today.
Sir.
65 toss power trap is like an institution in Kansas City because everybody knows the play. I remember going to the supermarket and not even thinking about it, and one of the customers walks right past me and he says, 65 toss power trap. And I was just stunned. I said, "You have forgotten after all these years." He says, 65 toss power trap. It made this team.
Man, I love that story. Okay, back to modern day football. Time to read and react, starting in our nation's capital, where Commanders wideout Terry McLaurin was asked about new OC David Blau's vision of getting him the ball more next season.
I love that. I love that. You know, he told me that way back in February. He texted me that him and I have a really good relationship, and he's been a man of his word. And my job is to prove that each and every day when we're having workouts to be the leader, to be someone you can count on to be on the field and make plays. And that's all I've been asking for. That's all I want. So to win games and have a big part of that. So I was definitely smiling when I saw that come across his phone.
Yeah, listen, last year he was holding out at the start of the season, Lewis. More targets for Scary Terry. Is that the answer for their offense?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, look, I think this year he'll come in with a full training camp. He won't be dealing with any soft tissue injuries. He has the rookie Antonio Williams out of Clemson to really help him out and give them a nice 1-2 punch. They'll be able to run the football effectively. I believe with the stable of backs that they have, and Jaden Daniels is still the man. Let's not forget, this dude only didn't shine last year because he was hurt, not because he's not good. He will reestablish himself this year as one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah, and he and McLaurin were only able to play 3 games together last season, so let's not forget that. All right, moving on to L.A. Justin Herbert is getting more playmakers, and new Charger David Njoku has wasted no time speaking up and putting defenses on notice.
We can be destructive, you know what I mean? We have the tools, we have the keys, you know, we have the players to do it all, so it's up to us to put it all together.
Bug, you got to love the hire of Mike McDaniel as the OC. What stands out to you the most about the upside of this offense?
Well, I think it's just that, Hannah. It's Mike McDaniel. Let's understand who he is. We all give him credit when he went down to Miami. Let's know what he was before he got to Miami. He was the run game coordinator out in San Francisco, so they're going to run the football. I get what David Njoku's talking about, but I think the happiest guy has to be Omarion Hampton, because the way Mike McDaniel can create lanes in the running game, they're going to be a physical football team. I think they're going to use Justin Herbert's legs just a little bit. And if they can get Quentin Johnston to hold on to the football a little while longer and Ladd McConkey, this offense could be really explosive. Mike McDaniel, I think, is going to go back to his roots, which is creativity in the run game and explosive plays in the pass game.
How about protecting that quarterback, though, Bug? He was sacked 54 times last season, the most in his career. All right, coming up, the quarterback competition in Cleveland is heating up. Bug is back. He reveals who he thinks should be the Browns' starting quarterback. Does Lewis in Cleveland?
I mean, nothing's really changed. I mean, we're going to rotate those guys and play the best player. I mean, and we'll see. And I think Shedor's come miles in terms of his progressions, getting the ball out, his understanding of concepts. I think he's really, really come a long way.
So Todd Monken has to navigate this quarterback room that combined for 16 touchdowns and 18 picks last season. That's a ratio that was 31st in the league. Cleveland last in the NFL in completion percentage and total QBR, as they had Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco combining to start for the Browns in 2025. But now, of course, they have Deshaun Watson back. He's healthy. He is actually extension eligible after this season, which is crazy to think about, and he's taking QB1 reps. Lewis, who should start for this team?
This should be a true competition, Hannah. That's what this should be. They should not have any predisposition, or rather, like any intention on having this be anything other than just a pure organic competition. And quite honestly, I think Deshaun Watson should come out of this as the winner. I really do. I think in terms of his youth, his improvement, how much upside he still has, I think that is going to be something that ultimately wins out. I mean, look, I was a Dylan Gabriel fan when he was at Oklahoma. I was a Dylan Gabriel fan when he was at Oregon. So I like him as well. I think he makes the roster. I think he winds up, if they keep 3 quarterbacks, being in contention for that. Taylor Green, the last guy on that screen, is someone you should not just discount. He is a kid who has unique skills in terms of his body type. He's about 6'4", 6'5". He's 4'3" in the 40. He can throw the football a mile. He can run the football as well as any quarterback currently in the NFL with his elusiveness and his top end speed. And look, Todd Monken has a history of working with guys like that, obviously, just coming from Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. I think this is a kind of really interesting type of situation. I really think it is. But I think Shedeur should come out as number 1.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting situation. And for a team that really can't go anywhere but up when it comes to the quarterback, I think Deshaun Watson is going to win this job. I think it's going to be amazing to me, because for the last 2 years, we've done every show and we talked about how it was the worst contract maybe in professional sports. All that guaranteed money. Even the owner came out and said he probably missed on that one. And now you bring in Todd Monken, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting. Is Todd Monken going to go and start Deshaun Watson? I think he's going to win the job. I think he's the quarterback that can give them the best opportunity to win. And let's not forget, let's just play what if. What if Deshaun Watson turns the clock back to what he was in Houston?
Right.
Just what if? I'm not saying he's going to do it, but what if? That's all I'm saying.
Again, extension eligible too, right? And Todd Monken's coming in with fresh eyes here. One guy's not there,
Might
though,
be
Lewis.
pushing it there.
Yeah. Lewis, there's no Myles Garrett. He wasn't there yesterday or today. Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, it does, simply because, look, their defensive coordinator is a guy named Mike Rutenberg, who I've known for a long time. When we were back in Washington together, when he was really just a grunt. And he has ascended all the way now to being a defensive coordinator, following Jim Schwartz, one of the most respected coordinators in the game of football. And he's trying to really, win over these older vets and guys like Myles Garrett, who are one of the best players. Myles, one of the best players to ever put on a uniform in the NFL. And him not being there, I would just like for him to be there so this whole team can really gel on the defensive side of the ball with a guy who has never called defenses at any point in his career, let alone for a Cleveland football team that's trying now to find its footing.
Hey, he's one of the best defensive players in football. Defensive player of the year, missing an OTA. Yeah, you'd love him there, but I'm going to look the other way when he does show up.
Okay. I asked Aaron Donald earlier today who his favorite defensive player was to watch in today's game, and he went through pretty much everybody, but he did land on Myles Garrett. So there you go. And he said if he could come back and sack one more quarterback, it would be Lamar, who he never did. So there's that little tidbit to leave you guys with. Boog, Lewis, love you guys. It was fun. We'll see y'all tomorrow on NFL Live.